Charlottesville, Virginia is home to the author of one of the great documents in human history. We know it by heart. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. We've heard it so often, it's almost a cliche, but it's who we are. We haven't always lived up to these ideals. Jefferson himself didn't, but we have never before walked away from them. Charlottesville is also home to a defining moment for this nation in the last few years. It was there on August of 2017 we saw Klansmen and white supremacists and neo-Nazis come out in the open. Their crazed faces, illuminated by torches, veins bulging and bearing the fangs of racism, chanting the same anti-Semitic bile heard across Europe in the 30s. And they were met by a courageous group of Americans, and a violent clash ensued. And a brave young woman lost her life. And that's when we heard the words of the President of the United States that stunned the world and shocked the conscience of this nation. He said there were, quote, some very fine people on both sides. Very fine people on both sides? With those words, the President of the United States assigned a moral equivalence between those spreading hate and those with the courage to stand against it. And in that moment, I knew the threat to this nation was unlike any I had ever seen in my lifetime. I wrote at the time that we're in the battle for the soul of this nation. Oh, that's even more true today. We are in the battle for the soul of this nation. I believe history will look back on 4 years of this president and all he embraces as an aberrant moment in time. But if we give Donald Trump 8 years in the White House, he will forever and fundamentally alter the character of this nation, who we are, and I cannot stand by and watch that happen. The core values of this nation, our standing in the world, our very democracy, everything that has made America America is at stake. That's why today I'm announcing my candidacy for President of the United States. Folks, America's an idea that's stronger than any army, bigger than any ocean, more powerful than any dictator or tyrant. It gives hope to the most desperate people on earth. It guarantees that everyone is treated with dignity and gives hate no safe harbor. It instills in every person in this country the belief that no matter where you start in life, there's nothing you can't achieve if you work at it. That's what we believe. And above all else, that's what's at stake in this election. We can't forget what happened in Charlottesville. Even more important, we have to remember who we are. This is America.
All right, so Joe Biden is officially in the presidential race. He is the 20th Democratic candidate to join the field. Joe, I liked it. What'd you think?
Well, you know, it was done very well. He delivered it very well. We talk about political athletes there. He certainly was a political athlete. I thought also something that, again, he's such a nice, likable guy, at least for all the people I know that know Joe Biden, and I know how we feel about him, that I smiled without thinking I was going to, and he said, that's why I'm running for president of the United States. It was like an old friend running. And Mike, he's done it before, and he hasn't fared very well when he's running for president. That's one of the things that some of the people in the Obama administration who are expressing concerns have said in the past. But I will say this about politics. Show me Mike. I'm talking to Mike. Thank you. I will say this about politics. It's a funny thing that actually what people expect from you, your expectations. The expectations game is almost as important as anything. And I'm not so sure that it's not bad for Joe Biden, front runner, presumed nominee, that so many people are doubting him right now. First of all, it puts even more fire in the belly for him to prove them wrong. And secondly, it lowers the massive expectations a little bit. And so he goes out and does a pretty good job, then people go, wait, maybe we were wrong.
Yeah, you know, Joe, you could not be more correct on that, because I think a lot of people, when they think of Joe Biden, because of everything that's been said about him negatively, on the negative side of the ledger for the past 4 or 5 months, you know, oh, he was awful in '88 and he collapsed early in 2008, things like that, and oh, he's, you know, a gaffe master. He says some, you know, ridiculously stupid things sometimes, which we all do. And now he's coming back, he's getting in the ring, he's like an old athlete, hopping back into the ring after a couple of years retirement. And if he gets out there and he performs the way you just saw him perform, which I think he can, I think people are going to say, hey, wait a minute now. This guy looks pretty good to me. And those numbers that Willie pointed out earlier, you know, he can beat Donald Trump. That's where he's going, I think, in this campaign. And we're going to find out very quickly, I think, within the next 2 or 3 months, whether his effort can be successful. I don't think it's going to be a long, drawn-out affair. We're going to see how he performs. He's going to be covered enormously well over the next 2 or 3 months, and we're going to find out very quickly whether or not the 2018-19 version of Joe Biden is up to the task.
Well, you look, Willie, the first time he ran, 1987. It's been a very long time. Joe Biden's been running for president for quite some time, 1987, then again in 2007. And here we are. My gosh, what is that, 40 years later from 87 to, I mean, it's a long
30,
time.
Yeah.
30, 40,
Ish,
I don't
yeah.
know. Math, come on.
It's not a math show. Yeah.
I saw on Veep that Muslims created math. I mean, so come on, really. Have you seen Veep this year, by the way?
I've seen it first, not the others.
Veep is great.
So the Iowa episode, yeah.
Oh my Lord, it is wonderful. So anyway, if you haven't seen Veep this year, turn it on. It's fantastic. But so 30 years. So Joe's been running for a very long time. But even for people that maybe ran for the first time 6 or 7 years ago, this is a strange new world.
Yes.
2019. I mean, we're moving at the speed of sound politically. And who knows, maybe that benefits Joe Biden. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe something that you said in 1987 that hung out there for 3 weeks and destroyed a campaign, maybe it's gone by the end of the day after a Donald Trump insult.
And he's gotten out in front of some of the problems he expects to have, the crime bill, other things, the accusations that were made against him a month or so ago. And he's talked about those things. But I think what he can't do, and we'll see, is he can't go through and apologize for every step of his political life. We've actually seen younger candidates doing that now. Beto O'Rourke's been doing some of that. A lot of the candidates saying, I wish I'd voted a different way 3 years ago. But if Vice President Biden is out there saying, yes, you're right, in 1978, I wish I'd voted different than I did, and if I had it to do today, I would do it differently. You don't want to get caught, I think, in that spin cycle.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.